So good evening, everyone, and a big welcome to all of you who've joined this Salt Rock City pre-launch webinar. Really excited to have all of you here, and we are 11 days away from one of the most highly anticipated property launches that we've all seen in a very, very long time, and very excited to share with you the direct insights from the team in the know. And I know that a lot of people are still joining the chat as we speak, but the big objective of tonight is if you are anyone who is planning to purchase come 9 o'clock on the 29th, which is the Saturday after this one coming, we want to give you all the tools you need to know in terms of insights into the product directly from the developer, the sales team, the architects, know what tools are available to you, know what process you need to follow between now and launch, and literally leave this evening with any questions answered. And we'd really encourage you to ask as many questions as you possibly have, whether it be levies, rates, purchasing process, unit types. We're going to try to cover it all. And we're going to try and do it in about 45 minutes. And then there will be a recording of this webinar, which you can share with family, friends, co-investors, partners, or whatever it may be. My name is Stefan Boetzer from Rainmaker Marketing, and I'm just here to facilitate the discussion this evening. The guys in front of me are people, collectively, we probably worked together for 40, 50 years amongst all of us in terms of across different projects. So there should be a lot to talk about. And if I can't get the discussion flowing, then, then there's a problem. But we really want to just kick off and go about everything. And like I said, any questions will be answered as we go. And I think just by way of introduction, just from in no specific order, Skulk Chinison, who's the managing director of the Devemco Group. How's it, Skulk?
How's Steph? Thank you very much.
Peter Cameron, who's the sales director of Salt Rock City and also sales director for Devemco Portfolio, and a man who's got immense experience when it comes to launching and selling off-plan developments across the KZN coast.
Thanks,
How's
Steve.
Pete? And then John van Wyk, who says he's a man of few words, but when he gets talking about architecture, he generally is he gets quite a few words out. But John, who's the director of Craft of Architecture, for those of you who don't know Craft of Architecture, probably in my mind the leading architectural firm in the country, been responsible for significant catalytic projects throughout South Africa and abroad, and busy working all over the world at the moment. And John, good to have you here.
Thanks, Steph.
So I think we're just going to jump in. I mean, Skulk, just going to start with you. I think from a Devemco perspective, I mean, those who do know Devemco Group or don't know, I mean, you guys have launched, conceptualized, sold close to 5 billion in property between Umhlanga and the Sabai precinct, Umhlanga Arch, one project, and then obviously the whole Sabai precinct, Ocean Dune, Pebble Beach, Salter, etc., etc. It's obviously quite a big move for you guys moving onto the KZN North Coast, specifically Salt Rock. I mean, what is the reason underpinning you guys unlocking Salt Rock City?
Yeah, thanks, Steph. It's not the first time we've done two developments up in the Blitzer area, one in Brettonwood and one in Zimbabwe as well. So we do understand that the North Coast market, and we're obviously based in Sabaya. We've also got offices in Australia, and we've got offices in Botswana, all over the show, but we are proudly KZN. I think we have been here for 12 years now in KZN. We're based here. We love KZN. I think we're probably the biggest developer in KZN at the moment, just through volume of what we are delivering at the moment. So I think that's a big thing. There's not a lot of people that are proudly KZN. I think we are. We operate nowhere else in the country, which is good for us. Yeah, and then as we move to Salt Rock City, I think it's come a long way. The property was initially bought in 2006 by the regional developers. In 2010, it got all the zoning in place, and then it's been very slow in developing out due to various reasons. So last year we decided to get involved and see if we can't get it going. And I think this is our first project in the node. And then obviously we are busy with the master planning of the whole node as well. So the master plan of the node is about 10, 15 years old now. So we're working with John to reinvent the entire node, redo it, bring in catalyst projects throughout the whole node, and make sure that we kickstart this whole area. It's an incredible opportunity. It's the last little hidden gem in the middle of Salt Rock City, or Salt Rock, now called Salt Rock City. And yeah, it's rare. We very, very rarely get opportunity where we've got all the services in place, the roads are in, water, electricity, sewer, everything's there, the nature's there, the attenuation dams are there, shopping centers, schools, everything's already there. So often when we start developments, we only look at developments as a big field, and we try to envision what we're going to do and try and sell the dream, and it's years of planning. The nice thing here is it's all been done over the last 10, 15 years. So we can literally climb in, we can reinvent it a little bit, do some clever things to make it come alive, which I think what we are doing here with this first development. And then from here, roll out the rest of the precinct. So yeah, very exciting for us, and we're very excited to be involved.
And I mean, Skulk, I mean, I think one of the things we've seen working with you guys as consultants over a period of time is, I think the biggest thing about Devemco in my mind is you look at what the market's looking for, and then you work back from that in terms of creating a product. I mean, in your mind, what is the big differentiator that sets Salt Rock City apart, and that's defining the level of interest we're seeing at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting question, because there's a lot of interest from various different groups in Salt Rock City. So it's from young people to middle-aged people to the older people. So everyone is kind of looking for a price point where they can scale down, enjoy the lifestyle, enjoy all the amenities. And I think that's like you said earlier, a key thing for us is to understand what the guys want. And also we listen to the people. So even people on this webinar, if the people have comments and say, listen, we really want this. A lot of comments are around amenities. We want a lap pool. We want paddle courts. We want this. This is what works for us. We want smaller homes. We want bigger homes. And then obviously we've got a track record as well of what we've seen works in the market throughout all of our various developments. So I think what we've learned over the last 10 years has improved our products as well as we went along. So I think it's key for us that we continue to develop. We don't push out the same product every time. We learn from the stuff. As the market grows, as the market matures, we change the product. And I think that's what we've done successfully. A lot of guys want flexibility. So I think that's what we've built into this product. You can either buy a piece of land, or you can buy a piece of land and top structure. You can buy small ones, big ones, and you can have various finishes. So we've given the guys flexibility in what they want. We've got different structured finance packages for the guys to make sure that we cover the entire market. And yeah, I think the biggest thing this new market wants from us is flexibility and ease of access. They don't want to struggle. You don't want to hack through various approvals and processes. You want low levies. You want to be efficient. And for the investor stock as well, it's key that we have a price point that it makes sense investor-wise for guys to be able to rent. The newer generation prefers to rent rather than buy for flexibility purposes. And obviously the investors scoop up that market. And then we've got smaller PUD sites, of which the majority of them are sold as well. Smaller developers can come in and develop underneath our blanket, which is also. So I think we've captured in this first phase the whole market, and we're close to amenities. We're at the shopping center. So I think that's key for us, and exactly what you said. We listen to what the people want, and even throughout the process, if the feedback we get is no, we want something else, we change our thinking and we will follow what the guys actually want.
Yeah, and I think for all of us, it's been quite a treat working on a project that has existing roads, existing shopping centre that's thriving, existing school. I mean, it's quite unique, eh?
Yeah, you just don't get that anymore. Normally we're trying to sell a dream of what's going to come. Here, it's actually there.
Yeah.
We just have to fill in the puzzle pieces along the way.
Yeah, and I think, Steph, if I can jump in there, for me, I mean, I came here in 2005 when Simbiti started, and we always said that exact thing, like one day we're going to build the golf course, or one day we're going to do this. This is the first development that I've ever been involved in where there's doctors, restaurants, pharmacies, Woolies and Checkers and everything already existing. So we don't have to say, you know, like Skulk said, one day we promise you we're going to do this. It's actually there already. So that, like, you know, having been involved in like the foundations of a few Bretton Woods and Simbitis, this is the most excited I've been because the amenities are in play. Obviously, we're going to do the paddle courts and what we're offering, but having a massive center like this in there already is just like such an asset. And it's just, that's why there's been such an overwhelming response already. We've done a couple of 100 site tours. We've had the Sharks on site. We've had Vincent Shituku out there. He's actually bought a plot. You know, we've been scrumming that site in the little Suzuki, doing these site tours, and it's just been a hell of a lot of fun. But at any point, when you're with clients, you can just look across the road and have a look at either a sea view, either at the forest, and then you know that there's a shopping mall, a couple of 100 meters away, which is just so accessible. So it's been such fun to do so far, and it's just awesome that it's already in play.
Yeah, and I mean, people are going to talk product and pricing and all that kind of stuff in a second. We're going to go through the interactive map that anyone has access to in terms of choices. But in your mind, I suppose we've spoken about it, but what is really ticking the boxes for people looking to invest at the moment?
Flat sites, single story homes. So we've got various options, but we've got 3 single story homes. So initially we thought we were catering, in this 3.5 to 4.5 million rand market, that there'd be a lot of young professionals, but it's actually gone across the board. So we've got the young professionals coming in, and then we've got the young families with kids. There's a piece of lawn, to kick a ball with your son, teach him how to kick, or your daughter. In my case, I've got 3, so I've got to say that you've got to kick the ball with your daughter as well. And then there's the empty nesters, which has been quite a surprise. So it's people that are moving out of big 4 or 5 bedroom homes that want to be closer to their kids, and have decided to get a smaller home but want to be in the best location. And then over 60s as well, because across the road you've got doctors and pharmacies and just accessibility. And close to all the good schools in the areas where, the grandparents, they also want to go and fetch their kids from school. So initially, having thought it would be for young professionals, we've actually, because of the flat level land and the platform that Devemco are going to be cutting, we've actually catered for all of the markets. And this price point of 3.5 to 4.5 million is the sweet spot.
Yeah. And then, John, I'm going to bring you in a second. And just a reminder for anyone who's got questions that they want to know, please just start posting them, and we'll get through them during the course of the discussion. Skulk, in terms of what you guys have learned, and you spoke about it from a facilities perspective, how much of what you guys have learned in terms of what the market's looking for and what facilities really add value and so forth has gone into this?
Yeah, so Steph, I think following on from what Pete said is double story, single story sites. I think one thing we've done here is we're platforming almost 90% of all the sites. So when the person buys a site, he doesn't have to worry about earthworks. He doesn't have to worry about the different levels. All the sites are platformed, they're flat, and the double story sites are tiered platforms, so it's easy for them to work. They don't have to worry about their neighbors and retaining walls. And I think that's a big consideration. The guys only realize that once they get to site, oh geez, I have to do all these things. So I think that's one thing we've taken off the table. We're doing all that for everyone, putting all the services obviously in, power, everything to the boundary of the property plus a flat site. And then in terms of amenities, it's basically everything we've learned from all the various estates we've done. So I think the big thing is, here we're not putting a restaurant in because there are so many restaurants across the road. It won't be sustainable and it will increase the levies. So a key thing for us is to keep the levies low, and just offer the things that the guys need. So we're putting in a lap pool, we're putting in 1 paddle court with an option for a 2nd paddle court, so future expansion. We're doing 3 different community areas, so you can almost have 3 different functions at the clubhouse at the same time. So in terms of kids parties on Saturdays, we know that's a big thing across all of our estates. We've got a kids pool area with slides, and jungle gyms and all the rest. So there's bra areas. I think there's 3 different bra areas in the facility as well. So we've covered for everyone in the lifestyle village to access it. And I think a key thing that we've done is just to talk a bit more about the nitty-gritty stuff, but we've created a separate sub-association for the lifestyle village. So anyone in the lifestyle village can use the facilities, but everyone outside can't. So it's limited to the people who buy in this development. So paddle courts will be free, we won't have to pay for it, all that kind of stuff, and you don't have to worry about other people from in the greater Salt Rock City entering your estate, and you have to kind of prop them up. And the same for the other stuff. So if there's any damage to external roads, it doesn't fall on this association to sort it out. This association sorts itself out. It's self-sustaining. Because of the PUDs, it props up the levies very nicely. So it's a very sustainable model. It's the perfect size for us. So over the years, we've learned if it's a little bit too small, it's a problem. If it's a little bit too large, it's a problem. So this is exactly in that sweet spot in terms of opportunities to prop the whole estate up. There's privacy between all the forests, the valleys, and everything else. So I think this is probably one of the best size-wise and location-wise developments we've ever launched. And just the price point is so good because we've been able to capitalize on the pricing that was secured 10 years ago. So I don't think you'll see a product like this again on the North Coast, just because of what we've been able to capitalize on, the historical value that's been created here. And I think that's key for us.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just to add two things, if you look at research on estates across the country and internationally, is that the states that perform the best are ones where the facilities have commercial value in terms of being able to run by operators who then create the best possible facilities, whether it be a restaurant or whether it be whatever it may be. And I think to have the benefit of such great operators literally adjacent to the site in terms of restaurants and your Willies and your spa and I mean your checkers and so forth, it has a huge impact. And I know from a Kura school perspective how excited they are to be able to complement this overall precinct. And then I think just another thing from a pricing perspective, it's quite interesting. We did a study recently in terms of looking at the average price of freehold homes in all the states it's around. I mean, we know there were some incredible states on the North Coast at the moment. If you look at Seaton or Zulami or Eileni or Dunkirk, whatever. But what's quite interesting is the average price of freehold homes within those estates is 8.74 million. And I think that's the huge thing, is trying to get in at a price point that probably hasn't been seen for a product of this nature, based on the economies of scale that Schalk spoke about, which does make it very rare in terms of what's coming to market.
Yeah, and
I mean, John,
we've had when Salt Rock, when it first started, and Mount Richmore launched, and now we know we've rebranded it Salt Rock City. Salt Rock was at the end of town, so it kind of was like Zimbali and then Belito and then Simbiti, and then there was this vacant land and then Salt Rock. But now, because of developments like Dunkirk, Brettonwood, Zulami, and Seaton, Salt Rock City's moved to the middle of town. So it's fortuitous that we get the opportunity to develop it at this time, whereas maybe a few years ago it might have been ahead of its time. It's just like, I feel very lucky to be involved now when we're in the center, we're in the middle of Belito now. And I think having neighbors like Simbiti, to our south, and then Dunkirk to our north, and us coming in at these particular prices with them, as you're saying, they're almost double. I think it's just really fortunate to have the opportunity for me to sell and be involved at this particular time.
Yeah, and I think the acid test is always how many of the professional team are getting involved, and it's pretty much, I think all the guys want to get stuck in because they see these things coming on a day-to-day basis and can sort of quickly work out what's really unique. John, so I mean, I think architecture-wise, I mean, just in terms of what's gone into the vision from an architectural perspective, and how you guys have gone about the home configurations and in lieu of accentuating sea views and forests and all the rest.
Yeah, I think, Steph, first of all, just in terms of the site, I don't know, you could perhaps even call it up there if you've got it. I think what's really unique is that we've got a site which is flanked on either side by protected forest, and then running right down the center, we've got this lovely riverine area of green. And I think, often on developments like this, it's difficult for us as architects to motivate for as much green area as you're getting here, and all we really had to do is capitalize on it. So I think that's quite a unique feature of the site. You're flanked with green, you've got green running down the center, and then to the east you've got your sea views. And then the other thing, the guys talk a lot about flat sites and that, but the fact that the site has quite a substantial topography in terms of level change and difference, it also led to a lot of the solution of the design we did a very careful study of the contours along with the civil engineers, in order to try and terrace the site to a degree where we could maximize views for as many sites as possible. And I think the guys talk a lot about the flat sites, but I think I certainly wouldn't discount the sites that are terraced up, the ones that are above the road. I think there are a lot of advantages to those sites as well. You get effectively your released site areas a little bit more because you've got your garage beneath the house. So don't discount those. You also get a little bit more privacy because you're raised up from the road. So I think there's certainly an advantage to those sites as well, depending on what you're looking for.
Okay.
So and when I talk about that, I think it's part of the way we've tried to let's call it protect the views or create the views as much as possible by terracing. So if you've got a flat site on the view side, then what we do is on the upper side of that, we create a terrace where we push the garage into the site and then put the living area and the bedrooms on top of that garage, which really allows that top zone to have that top floor where your living and bedrooms are to have views to both sides, not just to one side. You're not just looking away from the road. So I think from a site point of view, that's where we spend quite a lot of time in basically sculpting the site to take advantage of the views and the green areas.
Yeah,
100%. Maybe to add on to what John's saying, a key thing we've taken into account here, which you'll also see in the pricing of these sites, is that the double-story sites are a little bit cheaper, just because we know they're a little bit more expensive to build. But obviously, like Johnny said, you're getting a lot more value for money in terms of the double-story sites. So both me and Johnny have both put our hands up to buy double-story sites. So we're kind of backing what we're saying, yeah. So we're in line to buy them. But for me, he's exactly what he's saying is 100% correct. You can extract a lot more value. You've got a bit more privacy. You're elevated, and you've got a back garden and a nice patio that you can possibly enclose in future. And we've designed it in such a way that it's not hard to enclose. If you want to enclose it, because we know that in the North Coast the wind blows and all the rest, but you still get your view. So it's a very clever design. It's come a long way. This is almost the 5th house iteration we've designed in this manner to make sure that we've taken all the things we've learned over the last couple of estates into account.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I just wanted to just quickly, while we have it open, if you guys can see my screen, just for any of you who haven't got access to this interactive map, I think this is quite a key tool for all of you to be able to play around with prior to launch on the 29th. So just to quickly, as a bit of a tool, and then Pete, I'm going to ask you to chat to some of the things, and for John and Skull to come in. But first, you have the ability up front just to identify points of interest and to know where the clubhouse and the paddle courts and all that kind of stuff are. You also have the ability to navigate through certain views, and you'll see, I mean, I think the beauty of the site, I think we know that there are some cracker views, whether you're looking forest or conservancy, or whether you're looking from a sort of a high level sea view perspective. And then you've got some of these units that are tucked into the forest. So you've got a really nice variety. We've done indicative views that you can have a look at. You also have the ability to go into the videos. You have the ability to go through the archive of all the videos that have been done. I mean, we've spoken about property investment. We've spoken about the different unit types. We've done showcases, the launch marketing materials, all available. So all of that stuff you can go through. And then on site, for those visiting sites, you'll see that there is a geomap where you know exactly where you're driving and navigating on site. And then off the back of this too, you have the ability to download the SCP or the e-brochure or the unit types. But I think if we go through high level, you have the ability to either search by, like Skulk said, by double stories or single stories in terms of which plots work accordingly. You also have the ability to refine your search by what your budget is for land, as an example. Let's just say it's between 105 and 1.1. It will keep narrowing down those options. And gives you the ability. I mean, and Pete, I don't know if you want to talk through a typical example here, but if we're going in, I mean, this is a typical double story option. It gives you the types of unit that you can do. This particular one can only take a type B, which is the double story option. The ability to download and the ability to see what the price is, both for the plot on its own as well as for the top structure. And I think having the ability to go through pretty much any of the different options in terms of either searching by home type. I mean, I think, like John said, types C and D are double story, and then types A1, A2, and B are single story. And just being able to, once you've identified the home type that works for you, if A2 is what you're looking for, to then be quite clear about what the different options are specific to that particular plot. I mean, this one here, you have the ability to see that this plot can take a A1, a A2, or a type B, and really be able to navigate and go through different options. I mean, John, I don't know if while we've got this render, but if you want to talk to some of the aesthetics of the different unit configurations.
Yeah, I think you know what we try to achieve here is something that's quite clean and uncluttered. I think that sort of feeling lends itself to the environment in KZN, especially where it's warm. You can always you can always leave your doors and windows open. You can always live out, you can spend time outside. So we've spent a lot of time looking at natural light, natural ventilation. I think what's quite relatively unique for development like this is we've managed to get all our windows and doors go right up to the soffit of the ceiling. So, it gives you a lovely feeling of clean openings. It also helps all the spaces feel a lot bigger. You'll notice in the plan as well that sort of living dining areas has got more width than normal. Often to save kind of width in a development, those spaces are stacked up where you have a kitchen, then a dining in front of it, and then a lounge in front of it. Whereas now you've got a nice wide space with a lot of glazing to the front, also giving you that nice wide veranda space as well.
Yeah. And then I'm just gonna pull up a double story option just to be able to go through one of those as an example for type D, which I guess is similar principle.
I think a similar thing. I think what entering at the bottom, you get because we kept the garage and the entrance, the width of the unit, you get a lovely little store there with your garage as well, which is always really useful. And then again, these lovely big clean openings. What is quite special about these units is you obviously don't have the garage on the front or the back of the unit. So you've got, we've created a nice big floor to ceiling opening, almost 3 to 4 meters wide on both sides of that living space, which means you're always going to get lovely natural ventilation through there. You can get light from both sides. You can live to the front and get the view, or you can live privately at the back.
Okay. And I mean, Pete, if one has to look at the site, I mean, without you navigating it, I mean, what are the different components that guys need to look out for in terms of sections that are either forest or sea, or how would someone navigate in terms of what they should be looking for?
Yeah, so I mean, I tested this on my 14-year-old daughter and my 83-year-old dad, and they both got it right. So it's pretty easy to navigate. So if you're just looking at the map on the right-hand side, we've got these bigger plots where your arrow is right now, where they, 1,000 square meters with another 200-300 square meters of private use garden. And those, what we found are those are for people who actually want to build their own homes that are 300-400 squares, because they're utilizing the size of the land. So everything on the right-hand side with those bigger plots, that's kind of what we felt from the market so far. And then as you go to the top of like the northern part of the state, those where all the sea views are. So that's when there's been a lot of action, and probably been the most popular up to now. But as we drive more around the estates and like you fall in love with it every day, we found there's a little stream that runs through kind of like the middle. We call it the valley views now, where on both sides you've got your plots on a flat piece of land, and then a servitude in front of you, and then a forest that kind of barriers you from the person across the valley from seeing you. So you've got total privacy with a little stream that runs through the middle. And I mean, the romantic side of it is, I heard a couple the other day say that they're going to build little stairs going down and just have a table and chairs with 2 chairs, and that they want to sit there and listen to the sound of the stream and the birds. And so that area now has become super popular, and people now are steering more towards, that valley views where your arrow is right now, for privacy and for the nature aspect than the sea views. So, everything's an evolution, but the sea views are super popular, but now that valley area has just become really popular. And then closer down towards the clubhouse, where the paddle court and the pool and everything is, there are about 7 plots there that are totally private, that we actually look over, and every day in the next door estate Fable, where there's 10 to 20,000 square meter plots, you actually see the horses. So I mean, it's like when you're selling stuff on the ocean, you go, well, they're the whales. You can't plan that kind of thing. We've got these white horses that are running on the next door plot, which has really been special. So you know, to answer your question, I think there's something for everybody. If you want to build your own house and you want like a 300-400 square meter house, we've got 1,000 to 1,500 square meter plots that you can choose, and those go for less than 1,000 rand a square. So it's like value for money compared to our neighbors Dunkirk on you know, on our north and Zimbabwe on our left. That's just kind of unheard of. And then we've got flat level plots with, you know, more snippets of sea views, and then these valley views, and then everything looking over the wetlands and the nature to you know, heading towards Fable, the estate next door. So there is something for everybody. And it's been quite exciting to navigate the journey of you know, every day discovering something new and exciting and that somebody else likes.
Maybe just to add on to what Pete's saying, I think one of the key considerations is if you look at that map, the shape of every single site is quite important. So John and his team spent a lot of time refining the shapes so that they're practical. So a lot of times you find in these estates that it's whatever, it's a corner or it's a this or a that, it's a shape, it's a triangular shaped site and it doesn't quite work. So the numbers on the site work, but when you're actually trying to design a house, it doesn't work. So we've spent a lot of time ensuring that every single site works practically. And obviously that map also doesn't give it quite scale. The site is 30 hectares in size. So when you look at that little stream in the middle, it's going to be at least 50 meters from that one house to the next house, which is half a rugby field. But on the screen, it looks like these sites are almost touching. So I think it's a big disparity when you look at that map as to how the scale of this actual development. And obviously for me, the biggest thing in these developments is privacy. In estate living, you are close to your neighbors. So this is not an apartment scheme where you are right on top of each other. We've designed it in such a way that we've given the sites extra width to create barriers in between the sites. So there's a lot of consideration that's gone into this that I don't think that the general public will know about until they start building or until they move into one of their homes and they see, oh, geez, they actually thought about all these little small things that come along the way.
Yeah, 100%. So guys, I mean, people are going to get into the sales process and what guys need to know between now and launch in a second. But I just want to try and get through. We've got a lot of questions, which was a great thing. But I'm just going to rattle them off and just bring them on to the person who's best suited. So Skulk, I'm going to start off. Jayshila, Mystery, how many years do you have before you need to build on a piece of land?
So you've got 2 years before you have to build and 18 months to build. If those 2 years expire before you've started, then you will pay double levies. So the penalty is double levies. So just to ensure, so that the intention is for everyone to build as quickly as they can. Obviously, a big thing here is we don't want this to be a construction site forever. And we want the guys to move in and execute. So it's a big thing. And then 18 months to execute. A normal home should take you between 10 and 12 months max for this size of home. So 18 months is ample time to get the guys to finish their homes.
Okay, cool. And just to confirm, you have the ability to either have a home package built for you, or you have the ability to plan and build your own home.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then estimated completion time for the development in terms of, I think let's just break it down in terms of when will the first transfers of land occur, and when would the first homes be expected to be finished?
Yeah, so we're launching next week on the 29th Saturday. If all goes according to plan, we will get all the council approvals and the STPs in, which will allow us to finish the infrastructure. So we're aiming end of the year to finish all the infrastructure, to put in all the roads, all the services to every single site. And then in first quarter next year to be able to transfer to every end user. So between Jan and March, April next year, to transfer all the sites to the various guys. That's kind of the target dates at the moment. And then the guys will be able to submit their plans to council, or if they've picked the home package, we will submit the plans and we will get the plan approval and start executing on the builds.
Okay. Which I think ties into Christopher Stradham's comments about when the development launches, how much it needs to be sold, and in what time frame before you start with the civils.
So we almost only need about 50% to be sold to proceed. So we're very confident we're going to get there quite easily. So I don't think that's a hurdle for us at the moment. It's more a case of council approvals and how long that process takes to get all the approvals in place. And we can only submit that after we have completed the sales process.
Okay, perfect. And then there are quite a few questions, same questions, similar. Nakuli, Kendall, they've all asked about levies and supporting rates.
Yeah, so levies is 1,400 for the first 12 months. So I think that is the lowest levies on the North Coast for an estate. And there's a reason we're doing that. We don't want people to pay levies while they're building and there's not as many services being offered. So for the first 12 months while people are building, so basically from transfer to when people finish their homes in theory, they should have been paying very low levies just for security and for managing the contractors and all that kind of stuff. And then it will kick up to the normal levy, which is currently 1,900. So it's not a very big jump either. But that is the levy across the whole of Salt Rock City at the moment. I think it's 1,920 Rand. And then rates is based on the value of the property. So currently it's about 2 cents in the Rand for Quarakuza on residential. So it will be, yeah, and there's a rebate on top of that. So the rates will be very low during construction, and then it will get re-rated once you get occupation cert at the end. So rates will vary probably between 2,000 and 3,000 Rand a month, depending on the value of the property you're building.
And then Skulk, why are you on a roll? There's a few more. So anonymous, hi SRC team. What are we allowed to build? And how does it work in the non-development areas that form part of the plot? Can it be fenced? Will the FAR be calculated on the total land size, which is basically the development plus non-development area?
Yeah, so you'll see every single plot has a plot diagram with every single control on it. So on that plot diagram, it'll tell you exactly what you're allowed to do, FAR wise, what's included, what's excluded. But yes, you can fence the buffer area off. You can't develop in it, so you can't build any structures in it. So that's a key consideration. But you can lawn in it, you can garden in it, you can do that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, I think that was the question.
Yeah, that was pretty much the question. Yeah. Pete, question here about favorite sites or areas. Basically, basically to interpret the question, if it was you, would you be looking at sea views? Would you be looking at closer to the facilities? What are just a couple of hints on some sites?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what stage of life you're at, you know. So like I mentioned earlier, those bigger plots, you can have a terraced lawn where you've got another 300-400 squares of garden space that I think is invaluable for, you know, for your larger families and, you know, playing sports and that. And then, but what I've found is that like a lot of people that have lived on the coast for a while, they're starting to head more towards the forest plots than the sea view plots. I think that's just because of the wind, you know. So it just depends on what flavor you like. But we found that, you know, a lot of people from, say, out of town are taking the sea view plots, and people that have lived in Belito for a long time are taking the forest plots. Obviously, the prevailing northeaster is a factor. You know, once you've looked at that big blue dam for, you know, 15 years, you do want a bit of a change. So I think the guys are really, you know, the locals are kind of heading more towards the forest plots and privacy and the little stream and so on. And people that are just moving to the area that are, you know, they want to see the sea, they're going for the sea view plots.
Okay. And Pete, I mean, the question, I mean, if you hear around investment, obviously everyone's, I think it looks like we've got quite a healthy combination, probably quite heavily towards people who are looking to make this their home, but then obviously you're going to have the investors who are either going to be looking at land as an investment or top structure as investment that they'll either probably rent out with time and then eventually sell. What are your thoughts on the investment proposition on Salt Rock City?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, you're looking at a 221 square meter, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home for 3.5 million Rand. You know, if you put down a 10% deposit, I think in 18 months when that home is built, you're going to be getting close to 30,000 Rand a month. There's such a shortage of rental stock at the moment. It's actually, you know, I mean, Steph, you know better than anybody. I think it's like 50, 60 families moving here a month. And I think, you know, to buy a home for 3.5 million rand and to put down, say, 500,000 rand deposit, I think from in 18 months' time, it's, you know, you might only be chipping in like 3 or 4 grand. And then after a few years, that thing's going to be washing itself. So I'm really excited about, I think a lot of my people that have invested with me over the years, I'm encouraging them to go for those 3.5 million rand, 3-bed, 2 baths, just because I think they can get to that 30,000 rand rental mark in 18 months. And then obviously if you go for a 4-bed, it's going to increase. And then with the opportunity to flip land, there's definitely that, you know, and historically, if you buy land off plan, and then once the developers put in the roads, the infrastructure and the clubhouse and the paddle courts and all of that's up. I mean, here we already have an existing mall. There is that little boost where I think you can, you know, and very conservatively, I think in that year period, there is a 300,000 rand, 400,000 rand that you could flip for. But long term, my first prize would be, you know, securing the smaller 3-bedroom home for 3.5 bar around there, and renting that out. And I just think that's, I can't think of a better investment right now on the North Coast.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things. I mean, we always talk about the value of appreciation within estates, how much more significant that is outside of estates. Not to saying that there aren't some great properties outside of estate, but it's just the security that comes with it, the amenities, the proximity to different things. And we're seeing sort of estates outstripping homes outside of estates by 125%. And then, yeah, I think the one thing, like the sun rising in the morning, is the growth in the North Coast in terms of the amount of families moving there every month. And I think to go back to what you're saying, that really does underpin that rental demand, and yeah, especially at the right price points. John, a couple of questions around provision for solar and fiber. I mean, that's all obviously taken into consideration from a architectural perspective, hey?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Short and
I mean,
sweet.
Scott, I mean,
I don't know much about the fiber.
No, I
It'll be
also,
hidden there,
yeah.
yeah.
No, so Steph, I can chip in there. So there is an option. So there's a whole schedule of options which you can choose for your home type. So there's air conditioning, there's fans, there's solar. So what we've found with the solar packages is, by the time, if we present a solar package now, in 18 months, by the time we install it, it will be outdated, because the solar technology is moving so fast. So what we've done here is we've created solar ready homes. So I think it's, I don't know, for 6 grand or 8 grand or something, we install your DB for you. We put all the conduiting in, and then by the time your house is finished, you get a solar installer to just come and install the package you want. We found that's the best option. Then the guys aren't messing with your house. Everything's ready for them just to come and install it. The plugs are there. The installation is ready. But yeah, on our previous developments, we found that the technology is just moving so fast, and by the time we install something, it's outdated. So we've stepped away from the solar, but yes, people can do solar. Obviously, there's a aesthetic to it as well, because we're doing flat roofs. It's important that the architectural guideline speaks about how the solar needs to operate. We don't allow them to stick out too much above the roof. They need to be in a certain plane, certain color, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's stock standard throughout all the estates. And then fiber, yes, fiber will be installed to the house. There's various packages on offer which you can choose from. And yes, everything will be installed to the boundary, and you will only need to install that last little bit with the operator. So the operator, you will phone the operator. They will charge you an installation fee to come put the box in, and however many routers you want in the house, and that's it.
Okay, and then a question around backup water.
So we haven't made any provisions for backup water because these are concrete roofs. But backup water can be installed by the guys themselves. You will just tap into the main line, so they can definitely do it. But at this stage, we haven't allowed for it in terms of any of our home designs.
Okay, and then yeah, just a question from Christopher Stradham, and it's a very relevant one. I mean, obviously development is great, but it does come with potential perceived traffic complications. I think his question is, what does it look like into the traffic, and are there any other plans for another ramp other than the one at Tiffany's?
So Kwarakuza and DOT do have a master plan for the area, which they are busy working on. The Brettonwood intersection, plus where the Sasol garage is, to do a link there to Zimbiti. Obviously, there's the Salt Rock City road will also get finished to link Zimbiti and that, which will make a very big difference in terms of traffic congestion as well in the area. And then there needs to be traffic lights installed at the Salt Rock City intersection. The developers we've already paid for that intersection about 4 years ago to happen. So now the authorities just actually need to execute the works. But yeah, I think the Seaton off-ramp intersection will take a big load off traffic off that whole area, off the Elaleni side of the road. And with us being able to link through to Zimbiti, so anyone in Salt Rock City can go in either direction without incurring too much traffic. Obviously, the schools, Mshlali, Village Kids, and some of the other primary schools in the area do create quite a bit of congestion. And I don't see that disappearing anytime soon, just because of one in, one out. But that outside of Salt Rock City, if you go to Currow, you can very easily get there. You can go to Zimbiti, you can miss all the traffic, all the roads will get finished.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, I mean, obviously the Seaton interchange is a huge thing, and I think it's going to transform things on the North Coast. But I do think that road that runs between Salt Rock City and Zimbiti effectively is a gem that very few people actually know about. And I think the fact that road has been built, it just needs to be operational, is a huge thing, to be able to access Sharkers Rock straight, as opposed to having to go out via the normal traditional Salt Rock route.
Yeah.
Stefan, you know, we did an activation last Saturday at the Kira Open Day. And what was quite exciting for the actual parents that were there already was when they bought into going to Kira, I think it opened 14 years ago, they were sold this dream that their kids could ride bikes to school and walk to school. And we're now giving them that opportunity. So besides the fact that I had to butt 120 Borscht rolls, which irritated me, the positive was listening to all the parents getting so excited and going, you know, I don't have to wait 40 minutes in traffic. I can just send my lighty on their bike and go, there you go. You've got a safe journey. You're 200 meters away, 300 meters, and you can literally ride to school. And I mean, if you add up 40 minutes times by 5 days a week, times by 10 years or whatever it may be, it's a lot of time as a parent that you're spending in your car. Whereas now your kid can live that dream that we all want of just saying, get on your bike and ride to school. So I think that's a huge thing, and there has been quite a lot of interest from the Kira parents. So that's been a massive selling point as well.
Pete, quickly, and Nakudi wants to know how far it is from Salt Rock Main Beach.
2 kilometers.
Roughly.
2 Ks. So what's so awesome is that all the beaches that I go to. So as you go straight down the road, you've got Granny's pools. So that's like perfect to teach your kid how to swim. You've got your own little that's where you take your dogs for a walk, and then there's bench coffee, so you can grab a coffee. There's a little paddling club down there, and then just to the right of it is Salt Rock Main Beach. So that's like, my teenagers hang out there. That's the cool place to kind of hang out in front of Dunkirk and Elaleni beach clubhouses. And between those two beaches, you've kind of got it covered. You don't really, once you move this side of town to Salt Rock, you don't go back to Belita.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the one question from Anonymous is with regards to loving the outdoors, in terms of trees and vegetable gardens, all that kind of stuff. Will we have an environmental manager? I mean, Scott, I assume those are all things that will happen and which will grow organically as a state is an operation, hey?
No, 100%. So that's very important to us as well. So we're going to try and keep everything intact where we are not platforming sites. As part of our environmental management plan, it's also very good for stormwater control. So especially through all the valleys, everywhere where we can keep any greenery, we will. Obviously, we are platforming most of the site to ensure that everything's level. So as soon as we platform the sites, we also grass. We're going to seed all of them, make sure the grass takes again, make sure that any embankments, everything doesn't get scoured. So yeah, it's key for us. And then we will landscape the road verges as well. And then over time, each person can sort their own garden out. Or if you are buying a plot and plan develop or unit, you will get a garden, a fully equipped garden with everything in it.
Okay. And I mean, the big thing we haven't really touched on is pets. Pete, I mean, in terms of number one, are we pet friendly? And number two, what is that policy?
Yeah, so you're allowed 2 pets. We haven't changed the philosophy of, you know, most of the estates. So two pets under 20 kilos. And Skull, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you're allowed a cat as well. I think that you're allowed 1 cat and 1 dog, or 2 dogs. But it just, you know, you're talking about the bird life and that earlier. There is a prolific bird life already on site, and those little streams and the forests that are existing. Yeah, so I think it's a huge win for animal and bird lovers.
Yeah, we've also seen some interesting things on site. We've seen quite a few darker, seen 1 or 2 bush bucks cruise alongside. Saw some mongoose and all the other little small animals creeping around. So I think it's kind of its own little small eco estate. And we're going to try and not disturb that as best we can. So, but yeah, you're 100% correct. So 2 pets allowed. Dogs under 20 kilograms. Obviously, there's some breeds we don't allow. But yeah, I think we obviously have we do look at all the pets as well. So if someone does have a very old cat or old dog, or have an extra one, we will consider it, and we take it to the panel. So if someone comes to us and says, "Listen, I've got a bigger dog, but he's 12 years old," we will consider it. But it'll just be one of those things, you can't replace him with another big dog or something like that. So it's just to be conscious of the neighbors and to make sure that the estate runs smoothly.
Okay. I mean, I think we're going to have to, and thanks to everyone. There's some amazing questions. We're going to have to try and wrap up the questions if we can. I think just a couple of things. I mean, using your own architect or builder, if you're going for the build only option, I mean, that is obviously doable.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So we've got an architectural guideline, which is published, so you guys can download that, check. It's a very straightforward thing. It's a case of don't build pink buildings, don't do things out of the norm, don't obstruct other people's views. So it's not a super restrictive thing. And then in terms of your own architects, yes, and your own builders. So that's not a problem. They just need to get accredited through the state. So often we find guys use builders that we have previously had issue with on our various estates, which we will not approve. So if it's a reputable builder, no problem. They need to show their track record. We go and visit some of their sites if it's a new builder that we're not aware of, to make sure they're reputable, because what we found on the estates is some builders cause a lot of problems by not putting the right controls in place. And then the homeowner gets fined, and then everyone's very upset at the end when one house floods another house or causes any problems. So I think it's to protect the buyers. I know a lot of guys get very frustrated when we say, "Listen, your builder did not get approved for these and these reasons," but it is 100% there just to protect the guys. We've seen over the last 10 years what happens on these estates. We've probably got 8 big estates that we're running at the moment. And it's purely a case of we're definitely not unreasonable in terms of approving guys. So you can definitely get your own builder approved. If they're a good builder, no problem. We would definitely accept them onto the estate.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's also just about being polite to your neighbors. You know, the guidelines, it's not onerous. It's really about just making sure that there's nothing offensive that could be offensive to your neighbors. That's really what that's about. I saw a question pop up there about the flat roofs, Steph. I've got just 1 or 2 comments on the advantages of that. I think a lot of this design, particularly in an estate like this, is to design, as I mentioned, not to offend your neighbors, and a lot of it's about what other people see, which is effectively what you see as well. So the advantage of the flat concrete roof in terms of visual is that obviously it keeps the houses lower, so it increases your opportunities for views. But also the material, that you've got a stone chip on a concrete roof, as opposed to if it's a sheeted roof, it's a reflective material. So you don't get that kind of reflection that happens when you're overlooking roofs. And that's one of the advantages. The other advantage is also that it's a lot less noisy when you're living in the house. When there's hard rain and that, you don't hear it. And not just that, even when the wind blows, you can hear it in a sheeted roof. And on top of that, the other thing is, with the roofs being low, it allows the landscaping to come past the line of the roof a lot quicker and a lot more, be a lot more prominent. So you'll see in this estate, within a very short time, once the landscaping has been planted, it'll start to get past the line of the roofs, which suddenly breaks the whole visual of the schema.
No, I think a very, very valid point. And I mean, and I guess, John, I mean, just from a unit type perspective, I mean, in terms of those configurations you created, I mean, architects don't often get enough credit, but I think to find that balance between livability and price point in terms of size and making sure you don't compromise in this incredible environment you've got. I mean, it's obviously something that you guys have modified over a period of time, hey?
Yeah, look, I think that also the way we do these designs is very, you know, it's not just one guy sitting down coming up with the design. It's very much a collaborative process where, you know, we've got some older guys with us, namely myself. and a couple of younger guys, and we'll always sit down and we'll the design as if we were living in it. So, you know, and that's how we look at it. So each time and a lot of it, you know, there's a lot of arguing between the younger guys and the older guys sometimes in terms of what's important. So, but we do sit down and look at it as this, right, this is where I'm going to live now. How would I like it to work?
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna have to wrap up. But Pete, I mean, let's talk between, like I said, 11 days until launch. What happens between now and launch? What can people expect? Come launch day, what time does it happen? What deposits will they pay? How will they get financing thereafter? And what do they need to do between now and next week to try and get the plots that they're looking for?
Yeah, so I really encourage you to get to the sales office, get on site, pick your favorite plot. We've been encouraging the 100 odd guys that have shown interest so far that are trying to reserve plots. We've been encouraging them to take 3 or 4 plots so that when they get to the launch that they don't miss out on anything. So it's not just choosing one, it's choosing 2 or 3. And then, then come back to the office, choose which plot, which plan you want. Do you want the various 3-bedroom ground floors? Do you want the 4-bedroom single story, or the 2 options on the double stories? And then like 11 days to launch, get your finance in order. That's what I would recommend. You know, make sure that you bankable and you're ready to go. And then on the day of the launch, we've got this East Coast Radio outside broadcast. We're going to take over like we did on the beach day a few weeks ago. We're going to take over the area, and it's just coming in, and you'll get a ticket and queuing up. And basically, you need to pay a 50,000 Rand deposit on the day with a tap or an EFT. You then will sign an agreement. And then from there, you've got 7 days to pay the balance of your 10% deposits and 30 days to secure the rest of your finance. But I think the most important thing is get to site now. You know, over this week, the rest of this week, over the weekend, there has been quite an overwhelming response. So pick your plot now, pick your second and third option, get your finance in order, and then get ready for some fun in 11 days.
Yeah. And I think, I think just to emphasize it, the demand it's off the chart. So there's definitely going to be, and obviously come launch day. So the sales will open at 9 o'clock. From 7 o'clock, people will be issued tickets. So it is a first come, first serve. It's not to try and create that, but that is just the nature of it, to give everyone an equal chance to be able to purchase on launch day. We can't tell you what time you need to be there, but the reality is we attend to people on a first come, first serve basis, but there will be a full team there. So to try and facilitate to get people through as quickly as possible on the basis of selecting their units and then moving through into the area to be able to sign. But going to site is so important. Like Pete says, I mean, we can't guarantee that the site that you're looking for you'll be able to get, but the reality is to have a bit of choice and to go and stand on the site, listen to the birds, see the sunrise, see the sunset, whatever your options are. And I think we've got a full team who can facilitate that between now and launch day. So in terms of details on the chat, we'll make sure we post the interactive map so you've got the link to that. Also post the number for the sales team in terms of being able to chat to them to set up your appointments on site. And yeah, and then like Pete said, I think any questions that guys have got. Sorry, guys, there are a lot of questions that haven't been answered. Pete, if I can, just because there'll be a couple of or Skulk, in terms of other costs prior to transfer, in terms of levy stabilization, a few things like that, are those all costs that people need to factor in?
Yeah, so that's all in the agreements that you can download. But I think there's a 5,000 rand levy stabilization fee, and then there's a deposit that has to be paid to Kwadakuza. I think it's 22,000 rand for a single residential site for the electricity, and then there's a charge to Caesar Water that gets paid. I think that's 40,000 rand or something like that. But that only happens at transfer. But yes, that is all in the agreement. So there's no hidden cost. We've spelled out every single cost in the agreement, so people are clear. I think it's on the second page of the agreement, so they can see exactly what all the costs are.
Yeah, and I think what we'll definitely do is prior to launch, making the preemption agreement available, so anyone has the ability to read through it prior to launch day. The attorneys, Watmore and Associates, are, I mean, the most incredible attorneys in terms of being able to talk through things and so forth, that have seen it all. So really an opportunity to then be able to ask questions, and they will be in attendance at the launch event, just to make sure that that any questions are discussed at the time. But in short, really excited. I think it's a massive the 29th is going to be a massive day for property on the North Coast. And yeah, guys, I mean, thanks for your time and your insights. We will be sharing this recording with everyone who has registered. You can share it on. Any additional questions, I really apologize. I mean, I think there are quite a few of you that we haven't been able to get to, but really we'll try and be able to answer those. And what we'll do is we'll give you guys details to the sales team, and see if the sales team can contact you individually just to answer any of the final questions. But thanks very much for everyone's time. It's been a great attendance, and really looking forward to the next 11 days and building up to a really, really remarkable launch. So thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.